I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. And I'll tell you what, the guy we have with us on the line right now, we're really glad he's joining us as well. One of the winningest college basketball coaches of all time. I don't read a lot of books, but I definitely read his book, came out last year. It's called Pitino, My Story, Inside the Biggest Recruiting Scandal in NCAA History and 40 Years of Coaching Basketball. The legend himself, Rick Pitino, joining us right now. Coach, I appreciate you coming on. How are you?
Well, I'm great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. I guess the first reaction I got to get from you, since you are a basketball purist, is what do you make of some of these NBA trades? You must have an opinion on that. Russell Westbrook just going to the Houston Rockets, and Chris Paul going to OKC. What do you make of this offseason in the NBA?
Well, I think everybody's obviously afraid of what's happening in L.A., both with the Clippers as well as the Lakers. Houston's owner is a very strong owner, and he wants to make it happen while Harden is still in his prime. So now you have probably, with Klay Thompson being injured, you probably have the most dynamic backcourt in the NBA. And Houston just does not want to take a back seat. Utah really did some great things as well. Denver's still playing terrific basketball. So the West is just so strong. Where the East is so weak, the West is so strong.
Where do you think?
I totally agree.
If you had to bet right now, who do you think wins the NBA championship next year? I know that's a really tough question to ask right now because everyone's saying how wide open it is. Do you think LA is the team to beat?
Well, I tweeted out the other day. Last year, I got lucky. I picked Virginia to win the national championship, and I picked the Toronto Raptors to go to the finals. So I just tweeted out 2 days ago that I'm picking Milwaukee Bucks to go all the way. Obviously, that's predicated on not having great injuries, but I think the West is going to beat up on each other.
Right.
I think home court advantage is still strong in the NBA, and I think Milwaukee, more so than even Philadelphia, will get to the finals and win it. And that's my opinion. I think they're going to get a lot better. I like their roster. I like what they've added, and I think they're going to, with the experience they got from last year's playoffs, I think they're going to be there once again.
You know, defense hasn't really been at a premium the last, we'll say, 5 or 6 years in the NBA. I think that defense is going to kind of come back next year. I think you're going to see a lot of low-scoring games. Do you agree with me?
Well, the Clippers certainly are going to be a defensive force. You know, anytime you have George and Kawhi together, and they've got two other guys that can play defense as well. You know, I'm watching the NBA Summer Leagues, and it's totally, the game has totally changed from a low post triangle and cutting off the low post to it's like 80% pick and rolls. I didn't see 4 passes made in these LA Summer Leagues. It's rare when you see that. It's all pick and rolls. It's all 5 guys on the perimeter. So I think we're going to see better defense. But that being said, I always call it watchdog defense. You know, if you're playing a pick and roll, say at the top, your 2 watchdogs are on the side, and they've got to play 4 versus 2 on that pick and roll, and then get back to their man. And what the pick and roll has done is it's taking movement out of basketball, and the defense has got to come back because you have more watchdogs. There's no movement of the basketball.
Does that bother you, Coach? Does that bother you as a basketball purist that there's not a lot of ball movement anymore? And when you watch, for example, the Houston Rockets, and I've talked to a lot of coaches about this that say, boy, Mike D'Antoni, boy, does he have a tough job there. How do you coach James Harden? He's taking 35-foot jump shots. He contested, but he's so good. He's so athletic. I mean, how do you coach a guy like that? And as a basketball purist, does it bother you that there's so many ball stoppers, for lack of a better term, in the league?
Well, now you add Russell Westbrook to that mix, and he's also a great downhill basketball player. You know, Mike, that's Mike's style. I don't think it's just because of Harden or Westbrook. Mike wants to coach that way. He wants to have spot-up people. Mm-hmm. He wants to come off and open up the court. And then you have the antithesis of that. You have the Steve Kerrs and the Popoviches who like more ball movement, more cutting, more passing. You know, the Warriors in their prime, you know, they put a stat in, they want to have so many passes per game. Mm-hmm. And they're fun to watch. And that's why the ball moves, the defense moves. The ball stays, the defense stays. And, you know, I certainly subscribe more in my philosophy to the Warriors or to San Antonio Spurs, but that's not saying that Mike's system is not good for his players.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to, you know, since you have so much NBA experience as well as college experience, I remember when you were coaching the Boston Celtics, and you, quite frankly, you just didn't have the players. Let's just call it for what it is. You didn't have enough players to get to where you wanted to go. And I remember that one press conference you had where you said, look, Robert Parrish is not walking through that door. Larry Bird's not walking through that door. Coach, I totally you can laugh about that now, right? But you were right, though, right, in a sense. I mean, if you don't have the players at the NBA level, you're not going to win. I mean, isn't it that simple?
Yes, it is. You know, it's. I had Andrew DeClerc and Travis Knight at center, but really and that was not to knock those guys. My downfall more than anything else, because I took over a team with 14 wins, I believe, and we got it to 38.
Right.
The downfall was Paul Pierce getting stabbed 11 times and almost losing his life.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember that.
Yeah, we were on the cusp of really getting better, improving, and my assistant coach did a fabulous job, Jim O'Brien, of getting them to the Eastern Finals. And so I thought we were making improvements, but Paul Pierce, certainly his life being in jeopardy, really, we had to take some steps back. And to be perfectly honest, I gave up on Chauncey Billups too early. I traded him to Denver because Portland was going to pick up Kenny Anderson's entire $11 million. I was also president of the team and trying to save the club some money. I shouldn't have thought that way. I wish I wasn't president of the team. I just focused on basketball because we were doing good things in terms of offenses and defenses.
Who do you think won the Anthony Davis trade, the Lakers or the Pelicans? I tend to think that the Pelicans won that trade, and I really like what they have going on down there in New Orleans.
Well, I agree. The Pelicans certainly got a lot out of it. But remember now, the country has not seen Anthony Davis because he's with the Pelicans, and we all know he's a great talent. But he was basically in obscurity there because the country didn't focus in on him, and he was having great years. Now you take one of the premier big players in the NBA, big men in the NBA, you combine him with one of the greatest players of all time, and so I think they both really benefited from this trade. I think you're going to see LeBron and Anthony Davis, if they stay healthy, and certainly there's other players in that team now. Kuzma is a terrific talent as well. I think it was great for both teams. I like that trade. I like the Westbrook trade. I love the Clipper trade. They all did some great things. I'm not sure what Oklahoma City's going to be doing the next 8 to 10 years. And my main man in life, Billy Donovan, I feel awful for him.
Yeah,
just drafting a lot of players apparently.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. If you're just joining us, the legend himself, Rick Pitino. His book is fantastic. Pitino, My Story. Check it out. Okay, Coach, I want to move to the college game. Somebody told me you have a little bit of experience there as well.
That's a dirty rumor.
Let's start with UNLV here at home. Obviously, your former assistant coach, your friend Marvin Menzies, losing his job, T.J. Otzelberger taking over. I want to put these rumors to rest. Did anybody at UNLV either contact you or your agent ever in the last year in regards to the UNLV job? Can you confirm that?
The only one who contacted me was Marvin Menzies. He called me and said, Coach, your name is being bantered about. It's hurting recruiting. I said, Marv, you want me to tweet out that I have absolutely no interest in the job? I will say that. Whatever you want me to say. He said, no, Coach, we'll keep it quiet for now, but I may need you to step up and say something. So I was willing to do anything to help Marv. I would never have had any interest in UNLV, not because I love the town. I actually like the job a great deal, but I could never replace a dear friend, a close friend, and somebody worked for me. I just couldn't do that.
And
if it wasn't Marvin, I would have been very interested.
That was going to be my next question, and I totally understand what you're saying, Coach. Let me ask you this question. I know this is a hypothetical. That's what I do. I do hypotheticals. If somebody called you up tomorrow and they either offered you for the same amount of money a top 25 college program as the head coach or a very competitive NBA program tomorrow, same money, same contract that you want, that you're comfortable with, which would you prefer?
It would depend a lot on where it was. You know, I would like to live in a place I haven't lived. That's why I enjoyed Greece so much, the experience of it all. It would all depend on what franchise, who's running the franchise, what style of play they want. I certainly think UNLV, looking at that type of job, I think that's a great job. I think you have to do what Talk did. You know, you're going to have to schedule some big names. I like Gonzaga's doing right now because the league is not giving you enough. So you're going to have to schedule like Denny Crum did before Louisville got in the Big East and the ACC. You're going to have 5 or 7 games a year that are made for television, that are big-time games, besides the conference itself.
So you mentioned Greece. You made a tweet that you traveled all the way from Tel Aviv to Barcelona. My question, it's kind of a double-barrel question. My question is, which place was the most beautiful that you went to, and which place had the best food?
Well, I think certainly Milan in Italy has great food, but Greece had great food. I loved Moscow, but I was shocked at 2 places. I was shocked at how nice Moscow was, and also shocked how nice the beaches were in Tel Aviv. They were spectacular. I wasn't crazy about Istanbul just because of traffic. Not that Moscow has great traffic problems as well, but Istanbul, the European side was a little bit nicer than the Asian side, but you couldn't move with traffic. And that nobody in Greece, everybody speaks English or understands English. In Istanbul, nobody spoke any English at all.
I want to go back to the college game and ask you your thoughts on this. We've had Michael Avenatti on the show numerous times. Of course, you know his name. In regards to this FBI alleged scandal that's going on, do you think this is good or bad for college basketball long term? What do you make of this story when you first heard of it? And I would imagine plenty of your friends, some of them could be involved in this thing. Hopefully, no wrongdoing. But what do you make of this from what you hear, and how do you see this thing playing out?
Well, I kind of laughed today because I went on a rant to the media 4 years ago, maybe it's 5 now, saying shoe companies have got to get out of the recruiting business. They have to get out of the business. And then when it's funny, the Southern District in New York, to me, out of everything, is I don't have a problem with Louisville firing me. The way they did it and the way they went about it, I thought was devious and not fair for a person who was there 17 years, but I didn't have a problem with them firing me. I had a major problem with the Southern District of New York because they mentioned my name, Coach 2, who coaches at a school with 22,000 students. His name was mentioned in a hotel room, that he's the big shot at Adidas, and we can call him and he can get money. Then when they go to trial, everybody's put on the witness stand by the Southern District of New York, and they all say the same thing, that Rick Pitino, the number one guy, this guy Dawkins, gets up and says Rick Pitino knows less than any head coach in college basketball, not only about his own program, but what's going on out there. And then the guy Gassinola gets up on the witness stand from Adidas and says Rick Pitino had no knowledge of anything that was going on that we were doing. The dad got up, Bowen's dad, and said, we kept it from Rick Pitino. He had no knowledge. But the Southern District in New York had all those tapes where I had no knowledge of what was going on,
right? And
they still put my name in that complaint for one reason and only one reason. They were not going to get any publicity by putting Dawkins or the assistant coach of Arizona or the assistant coach of Texas, wherever. They were going to get publicity by putting my name there. And to me, that's about as low as it can possibly get.
That's what I was going to ask. How frustrating is that for you? Look, we know what your resume is. You've won everywhere. You're going to go down as one of the best college coaches of all time. If you're probably already that, I think most people would agree. So how frustrating is this for you right now, Coach? This has got to be tough on you, I would imagine. Look, you did a fantastic job in Greece, winning a championship there. But I would imagine you want to get back into college coaching here, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth. You want to coach in the States again, I would imagine. I would imagine if a deal comes along and it's the right deal for you, you would take it. So, how frustrating is this for you?
Well, here's what happened and what has prevented me from going back to college basketball is the college program calls the NCAA and says, look, we'd like to hire Rick Pitino. And they said, do we have clearance? And they said, well, we haven't investigated yet. He may be 100% innocent. We don't know. We haven't investigated. We haven't talked to Rick. So until they get around talking to me, I'm not going to get. Now, the Southern District in New York in the trial totally exonerated me, gave me a clean bill of health, but still the NCAA has to do that. So there may be an opportunity out there next year. I was offered the president's job as well as the head coaching of Panathinaikos, and if it wasn't for some personal issues back home with a grandchild and some of my children, good things, I would have probably gone back. So I'll take this year off. I'll look at it, and hopefully the NCAA will get around to speaking with me, and they'll find out that, because, when you look at this whole thing, it's fascinating to me. Adidas was doing all these devious things when they could have done what Nike was doing. They could have just offered these players, parents, a consultant's job.
Right.
Because that's what Nike does, right? They offer the
right.
parents a consultant job,
right,
which makes it legal, instead of trying to come up with devious ways how to come up with money by taking it from certain budgets. All they could have done was, hey, Mr. Bowen, you're a consultant now, and here's the money. And where Nike does that all the time, they make parents consultants, or they make them whatever, and that's legal according to the NCAA rules.
Rick, I wonder if it's legal what the NCAA is doing to the schools, or if that's tortious interference by affecting your potential of earning revenue by having a job as a college basketball coach.
Well, I've got to deal with that down the road. Certainly, I don't harbor any animosity towards the NCAA. It's going to be really interesting what California did with their resolutions of athletes and trying to get them to use their likeness. And if it gets to the point where a young man says, yes, and I want to have my own shoe contract while I'm in college. Well, wait a second. Our school's getting paid $300 million by School X, and we can't let you do that. No, I am going to do it because I'm going to sell my name on that shoe.
Right.
So it's going to get real interesting to see what the NCAA is going to do. The Olympic model is what everybody's pushing right now. I'll say this, guys. I've said it all along, and sometimes people really get tired of listening or saying it, so I don't say it too much anymore. I've coached college basketball as a head coach for 35 years or so, 32-plus years. I've never given an inducement to a young man ever. I've never paid an athlete to come play for me. Unfortunately, I've run into some bad luck the last few years where my assistant coaches have done some wrong things, and I've got to live with that because I'm the head man. But I will say this. Tommy Lasorda really said it hits home. That's why I don't get bitter anymore and I don't look back anymore. I just look forward. Tommy Lasorda said, listen, 80% Rick Pitino don't care about your problems. The other 20% are glad you have them. It's really true when you think about it. Now that it's over, and it's that 80% of the people, hey, Rick, we don't care about your story. And the other 20% say, hey, I'm glad it's him and not me.
Right, exactly. We're just joining us, Rick Pitino. Coach, we just got a few more quick questions for you, then we'll let you go. We really do appreciate your time. Do you think in our lifetime that we will ever see a situation where college athletes are legally getting paid and there'll be something worked out, whether that's a couple $100 a week or $1,000 a week? I have no idea. But do you ever think in our lifetime we will see something like that where some of these college basketball or college football players that are making so much money for the university in some way, shape, or form will be getting paid?
Well, right now they can get up to about $8,000 or $10,000 with not only Pell Grant, but they have a couple other things that they can get right now. Unlimited food, which is good. But here's what's going to happen. I wrote this in the book. The NBA is coming back where kids out of high school can go pro. So now the colleges make billions of dollars from March Madness and TV. If they don't get smart and let the athletes start selling their images, then everybody's going to go to Greece. Everybody's going to go to the other EuroLeague teams. They're going to go to China. They're going to go to Australia, or they're going to go to the G League.
Right.
And they're going to say, hey, look, if we don't have the right to wear our own brand of shoe or to sell our likeness or to sell our autograph or to do commercials, then we're going to go elsewhere. And what do you think is going to happen to TV? You think they're going to pay billions of dollars so it looks like college basketball looks like the Ivy League?
There is absolutely no chance it happens.
No.
And here's what I knock about the NCAA, because 5 years ago I said to an NCAA people come around and said, do you have any opinions, Coach? I said, yes. You need to get the summer leagues under the jurisdiction of the NCAA. Not Adidas camps, not Nike camps, not Under Armour camps. The NCAA needs to have 4 different regions, and they need to run the summer camps, and we come in and evaluate. Now, they did that. It took them 5 years. My point being, the NCAA is never proactive. Right now, right in front of us, we see it. You two guys see it. I see it, that the golden goose that they have is being killed, but they don't recognize it. because these kids, once that thing comes in and the NBA says, no, you can go out of high school, then kids are going to start thinking that way. They're not going to have their mindset on getting their 18 core requirements. They're not going to have their mindset on getting their grades. They're going to just think about going pro. So if the NCAA right now doesn't say, okay, we've got to do something, we're not sure what it is, get the brain trust, take 20 of the top coaches in basketball, get Jay Billis, get Vitale, get all people who love college basketball together and say, what can we do to let these kids go to college and pay them?
Well, and I think even now, a lot of these high school kids with Instagram, they have a couple million followers. If they wanted to, they could command $20,000 or $30,000 every single post from a sponsor. And what would the NCAA do about that?
You know, and what would they do? What happens right now if Adidas or Under Armour comes in and says, hey, guys, I want to speak to your dad. Listen, I want you to be on our board, and I want to pay you as a consultant. I want to give you $200,000 a year to be a consultant. Please don't give any money to your son. Take care of your wife. Take care of your. We will make you a consultant.
Right.
So
Promise us.
The best high school. Well, it's being done certainly, but
Right.
they can do that and legally get away with it. So the way to get around all this is stop all the rules. Let the athletes sell their image, their likeness. Let the athletes, whatever it may be, whether it's a golfer, whether it's a basketball player, and you can't say, well, Title IX can do it. We have Title IX problems. Let the women go out. The women's soccer players go out there right now. Go sell your image and your likeness as well, because they're on fire right now with women's soccer, much more popular than men's soccer. And let them sell their likeness like every women's basketball player or any athlete. Let's not just limit it to football and basketball, and let's not just look at males. Let's look at open it up to everybody.
I could not agree with you more. Okay, I want to have a little fun with you, Coach, before we let you go. Okay, I guess this is kind of a three-part question. This might make you think a little bit. First part of the question is, what do you think is the biggest mistake you ever made in a basketball game from a coaching decision that still bothers you to this day? I also wanted to ask you a situation where you just said, oh, my God, I lost my mind, and you got a technical or you got thrown out of a game where you say, oh, my God, I just lost it. And the third part is probably an easy question. Who's the best player you ever coached?
Well, the first thing is a lot of people think it's the Christian late in the game. A lot of people thought I should have put a guy on the ball. When they threw it low, and Grant Hill threw the pass long to Christian Lake.
Does that still bother you now?
That doesn't bother me. What I said to my team going out bothers me. On the ball, you saw Connecticut when Tate George went. There was a guy. On the ball. He made it. He made the shot, and there was a guy on the ball. What I said to Pelfrey and Fellhouse bothered me. I said surround Leitner. Now he's going to either pass the ball or shoot the basketball, but it's going to Leitner. And then as they were walking out, I grabbed them and said, whatever you do, he hasn't missed a shot. Don't foul him.
Oh.
I wish I didn't say that. It's driven me crazy for the last 30 years. I wish I would have just knocked the ball down. It's going to Leitner, surround him, whatever. And I said, whatever you do, he hasn't missed a shot. Don't foul him. And I waited to the last second to say that to him.
You believe if you didn't say that, it would have been a different outcome?
No question, but we would have been in the Final Four, and today Christian Laettner wouldn't have had all that publicity.
All right, so the second part, is there a moment in a game, NBA or college, where you look back and you say, oh, my God, I lost my mind?
Five overtimes against Notre Dame, my championship team in 2013. After the first time out, I said, look, guys, we're up 7. I know who it's going to. He's all right, Russ Smith. He's all right. You take away his right hand, he's going to shoot a 3, take it away. He goes down, and the young man makes 3 threes. Russ gives him his right hand. I take Russ out of the game. We go into overtime. I say, that's it, Russ. You're not playing anymore. You can't follow it. I'm sorry, Coach. I'm sorry. I lost my mind. I said, no, I'm not playing anymore, Russ. You're done. He begs me to put him in the game. We go into the second or third overtime. And I said, Russ, you screwed up 2 overtimes now. We're in the third overtime. I'm going to make it easy on you, son. I'm going to put 4 guys on the baseline. It's tie game. All I want you to do is go back and forth. I'm going to yell it out. 14 seconds, 13 seconds, 12 seconds, 11. There's 4 guys on the baseline, Russ. When I say 6, you take the guy one-on-one, get fouled, and score. Now, that's your game, Russ. I call him Rusticulous. You understand me, son? He says, Coach, I got you. I'm going to take him, break him down. It's my game. Okay. We inbound the ball. Okay, Russ, 14 seconds. 13, Russ. 12, Russ. Russ, don't go. Don't think about going. 11, Russ. 10, Russ. 9. At 9 seconds, he pulls up 6 feet beyond the three-point line and shoots a 3.
No.
Timeout. I lose my mind. I completely lose my mind. I called the doctor over. I said, Doc, give this kid medication. Medicate him. Get him out.
Coach, what's the first thing you said to him that you can say on the radio?
I said, son, you are out of your mind. What are you thinking? I told you to drive at 6. You shoot a 3, 6 feet behind the line at 9. What are you thinking? And he looks at me and says, I'm okay. I'll get him in the next overtime. I said, oh, no, you're not getting the next. We wound up, after the game, I showed him the film. Russ wanted to crawl underneath the seats. We lost in 5 overtimes. But I wanted to turn it into a positive, and I said to the team, we're going to win the next, I believe it was 16 straight games. We're not going to lose again. This is going to teach us a valuable lesson in understanding what timeouts are all about. We won't lose again. We're going to win. We're going to the Garden in the Big East. We're going to win it, but you suckers are not cutting down the nets. Then we're going to go to the Final Four, and you're not cutting down the nets. We're not cutting down the nets until the final game.
Wow.
And it happened that way. We never cut down the nets in the Big East. We never cut in the Final Four. We waited for the championship.
It seems like it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Best player.
That is incredible.
Best player you ever coached?
Well, on the collegiate level, without question, I had 2 number 4 picks, but it was Jamal Mashburn. He was the best college player I've coached. I've coached a lot of great ones, but he was the best college player. And certainly in the pros, it would either be Patrick Ewing or Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
You know, it's both of them were great. Both guys, great guys as well as great players. And I've had so many. I was very lucky. I told the Greek team, they reminded me of my New York Knicks because I was very close, still am today, with Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson, Charles Oakley. We were all great friends back then. I was a young coach. And then this year I told the Greek team, you remind me of my New York Knicks team because, you know, it's totally different now. When you go over there, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you're waiting for your flight, you're flying coach, and the players say, Coach, don't sit by yourself. Come on, let's buy you a beer. And I said, boy, this is a lot different than any other time in my life.
You know, Coach, it's interesting because you mentioned Patrick Ewing. We had Jeff Van Gundy on the show not too long ago, and Jeff Van Gundy said Patrick Ewing never respected him, but he always respected the coaching position. Do you kind of agree with that? Is that how he treated you, or how did that go?
You know, Patrick and I recruited him in high school, so I was a lot different than Jeff. And by the way, guys, Jeff Van Gundy was my graduate assistant.
Wow.
When Billy Donovan played for me at Providence.
Did he have hair back then?
Yes, he did. And Frank Vogel was my student manager at Kentucky.
Holy smokes.
And then later became my video guy.
That's incredible.
So Patrick and I knew each other, so I recruited him at Boston U. He was nice enough to keep us in the mix because we were a local team. I knew he was going to Georgetown. So I was very close with Patrick. He closer to Mark Jackson. Mark was my rookie of the year, and I learned about Charles Oakley back then. I called Doug Collins when we traded for him with the Chicago Bulls. I said, Doug, give me a piece of advice because I hear Oak can be a problem. He said, I'll give you a piece of advice. Oak will either kill you or kill for you. Well, guess who picked him up at the airport?
Oh my! What did you make of that? What did you make of that situation when Oak got kicked out of MSG? I mean, that was a bizarre situation. I thought it made the Knicks look really bad.
You know, it really bothered me because I loved Charles. We were all very, very close. It really, really bothered me. I was cringing looking at that because I think so much of him. Patrick, Gerald Wilkins, Johnny Newman, Ken the Animal Bannister, Kiki Vandeweghe, Rick Carlisle,
wow.
The guys on my team, Eddie Lee Wilkins. We had such a good time back then. We won 52 games. We won the Atlantic Division. We swept the Sixers in Barkley, and we lost to a guy. I went back to college basketball because a player in the NBA upset us. He was young, and he's responsible for me putting me back to college basketball and going to Kentucky, and that's Michael Jordan.
Wow. I think he did that to a lot of people, Coach, to be honest with you. Hey,
he puts a lot of college coaches out of work.
Yeah, he did. So I thought you deserved an Oscar in the movie Blue Chips. When are we going to see Rick Pitino back on the big screen? That's what I want to know.
Yes, I thought sure a lot of Hollywood talent would have come after me after that.
I'm very surprised as well.
And I'm shocked to this day that they didn't come after me.
Okay.
So we're not going to see you in Space Jam 2. There's not going to be a cameo.
All right, Coach, I have to ask you this question one more time on the record here since we are in Las Vegas. We hope that TJ Otzelberger does a good job at UNLV. I think he's a good guy. We're rooting for him. But just in case something doesn't work out, are you telling me in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, I mean, you'll probably have a job next year, like you said, but if you didn't, if somebody called you at UNLV, are you saying that not only would you take the call, but you'd be very interested in this job at UNLV?
I think UNLV is a great job, but I really mean this. I'm a coach rooter. I want to see coaches be successful. I want to see their families prosper. So I'm a coach rooter. I would. There's not a job in college basketball I would not be interested in. Let me put it that way. Unless it's a place where I just wouldn't want to live. I love Las Vegas always. I always go out there once or twice a year. I love the NBA being there. I love the fact that Gruden's coming in. The hockey team's done great. It's a great town, great sports town, and certainly I want to see the coach of UNLV have great success.
Sure, absolutely. We all do. Well, Coach, hey, listen, when you're back in town, we would love to have you in studio if you have the time. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to call in and join us, and we hope we could have you on again sometime, Coach.
That'd be great, guys. Nice visiting with you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Appreciate that very much. There you go, the legend Rick Pitino. That was a long interview. We went a little long there, but we covered a lot of subjects from Blue Chips, the movie he was in, all the way going back to the days where he coached, my goodness, Charles Oakley. Jeff Van Gundy was one of his assistants. Wow, that was a long time ago, back, like I said, when Jeff Van Gundy had hair, and we touched on UNLV as well. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. We got to take a break. Went a little long there. When we come back, Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be joining us. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.
This is The Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!